Hello and welcome. You're listening to episode 2 of the First 45 podcast. How are you, Craig?
I'm not bad, my friend. We're sat here, aren't we, recording. The football's on. I've got beer in hand.
Happy days.
Can't be much happier, to be honest. Yeah, happy days. I'm pleased to see Ollie Watkins has got a goal, one of my transfers in this week.
Yeah, I've just seen Grealish has just taken the lead for them as well.
Has he?
Yeah, you've got him in your four-a-side team, right?
Oh, yes.
Jackie lad.
Oh, yes, Jackie lad, exactly. Yeah, I did say I was on the last pod, didn't I?
Cancelo last night as well, so off to a flyer.
Yeah, mate. Cancelo, Grealish. I had Adams, didn't I, up front, which wasn't great for the four-a-side competition. And in goal, we've both got De Gea, haven't we?
Yes, yeah.
How are you getting on in that? Who have you got?
I had John Stones last night for the clean sheet. Trying to think of who I had up top, actually. But it might have been Watkins, actually. Might have been Watkins, yeah.
Oh, you had Antonio. No, you had Antonio, wasn't it?
It was Antonio, yeah. Yeah, he could have got a couple of goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, looking at the highlights, he should have come away with double-digit haul, shouldn't he, really? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I'm sure we're...
off the post twice.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into that at some point. So how have you been anyway? All good?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Absolutely, not bad at all. I did a run today. Pretty happy with that.
Yeah?
Yeah, mate.
Play to you.
Since the turn of the year, I've sort of said to myself, I'll try and do some fitness every working day of the week. And I've kept it up since January 5th. So that was the Tuesday when we all, most people will just go back to work at that point, probably the 4th. But yeah, I've kept it up since then.
Good stuff, good stuff.
Clocked in at about 17 days of fitness in the last 23. I'm pretty happy, Dazza. The endorphins are flowing, mate.
Love it.
They need to be as well with the scores coming in last night with Gundogan, Cancelo, Souček on my bench, things like that. I need the endorphins at the moment, my friend.
A lot of talking points
Not too
from
pleased
last
with some
night.
of the decisions. Yeah, absolutely. You brought in Gundogan, didn't you? But you benched Souček as well.
I did, yeah. It was mixed emotions for me last night. I brought in Gundogan and Sonny for Rafinha and KDB. That was a -4. And obviously after the first game, it was looking pretty dire. I had Souček benched, and of course I took out Rafinha. He went on to get a goal and assist. It was looking a bit bleak.
Yeah, 13 points I think he ended up with, something like that.
Luckily, it picked up a little bit during the second round of matches because Gundogan obviously came through with a couple of goals.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was good.
Yeah, that surprised me. That really surprised me on that. I mean, I was someone that was definitely not leaning towards Gundogan. It's funny how you can get like that sometimes and go with your gut a little bit. I just thought he'd have a bit of a change of role, but I have to put my hands up there.
Yeah.
The man's playing through the middle, a bit like David Silva, wouldn't he? He looks so dangerous, and he looks completely different type of player to Sterling. Obviously, I went for Sterling, and luckily I kind of got bailed out in the end by his goal because he managed 11 points versus the 14 for Gundogan. But looking at Gundogan, everything goes through him at the moment. He's very central.
Yeah.
He's really tricky on the ball, and he gets into some fantastic positions just running through into the box, which I was just watching Sterling, and he was just constantly hugging the wing yesterday in the formation that they were playing. Yeah. So I was a bit concerned about that. And so hands up there.
I was
fantastic move for everyone that did Gundogan.
I was looking forward to coming on and giving you a bit of stick for missing out on Gundogan and going Sterling, but obviously, as it turns out, Gundogan went off on 58, 59 minutes, and Sterling went on to get his goal and assist, and the rest is history. So I'm sure you were pretty pleased with that.
Yeah, I am pretty pleased because it makes up for the deficit, only a few points difference. Obviously, I'd rather have the 3 points and the 6 million in the bank because we can do quite a lot with that, right? And particularly with Spurs fixture swing coming up soon, it looks like most people will try to bring Kane back into their squad. Yeah. So I probably will have to downgrade Sterling, do that, and I have to give him the games now. I've made a decision. You can't just, I want to jump off almost and go for Gundogan with the way he played, but Sterling's got Sheffield United at home and then Burnley away, and it could go the other way, couldn't it? So I don't feel confident about it, though, Daz. I have to say, I don't feel confident about it with the way he was playing yesterday, because I watched quite a lot of that game, which is, again, a pretty bad thing for me to admit to, given that I'm a Southampton fan. I should have been watching the Saints Arsenal game, but it just felt like we were a bit flat in that one, didn't it? So I was flicking backwards and forwards between the two, and it doesn't fill me with complete confidence.
Yeah, I guess with Sterling there, just going back to that, the advantage you do have with him is you must be looking at him as a captain candidate, whereas Gundogan, it takes a brave man to stick the captain's armband on him, despite the sort of form he's in.
Agreed. It's weird though. This is where sometimes prices play on our mind, because the reason you're not sticking a captaincy armband on him is because you've got that in the back of your mind, that subconscious niggling that he's 5.6 million. Yeah. But if he was 10 million and he'd been playing like this for the last season and a half, you'd be slapping a captaincy armband on him without a shadow of the doubt.
I think it's a good point.
You get blinded by it.
I think it's a very good point. And actually, I was thinking the exact same thing with Souček. I think sometimes we can get tricked into these underpriced players. For example, I had Souček on my bench, and actually he's probably performing more like a 7.5 million midfielder next season.
I agree with that.
Next season, I'll be very surprised if he's under 7 million. And
Agreed.
you wouldn't stick a 7.5 million Souček on your bench, whereas last night I played Shea Adams over him in a last-minute decision, and obviously it's not looking like a very good one right now with 15 points out on my bench.
Yeah, and no particular route to that, I guess, for you at the moment, is there? Can you see anyone being rested?
No, he is my first sub, so there's always a chance, but I don't envisage him coming on for me this week, unfortunately.
But on that point, because I saw the squads come up earlier, what Man United gone with tonight? Is Rashi playing?
Yes, he is. Starting up front, you've got Greenwood, Fernandes and Martial in behind.
Oh, I'm happy about that. If Rashford wasn't playing, I'd have been very disappointed because do you know what? I have to be honest, I don't beat myself up with these decisions too much. Souček, 15 points, very frustrating. But I think after the double game week and not doing anything, coming away with 4 points against West Brom and Burnley, then you just think to yourself, 4 points from those two games. And I don't know, he didn't seem to be getting in the box as much. Wow, Burnley have taken the lead. I'll tell you what, I'm going to have to put this Apple Watch off. We won't get through the pod at this rate. I'll be just, basically all we'll be doing is going through notifications on my Apple Watch.
So moving on, as you know, we like to pick out our best player and worst player each week. I'll kick things off there. I think it's pretty straightforward. Best player, I've gone for Gundogan. I know we spoke about him quite a lot already, but I just wanted to dive into a few stats here. I noticed having a little look that no midfielder has actually had more shots in the box over the last 4 game weeks, albeit City have played an extra game, but at 5.6, I think if you've got a Man City slot free there, the advice is to go and get him.
Just on that, because we did touch upon it very briefly a second ago, and I do think that the price tag does play its part here. Are you even considering him as a captaincy?
Honestly, no, to be honest with you, and maybe that needs to be reassessed, because as you say, there's no reason not to other than the price point that he's at. The stats are backing up the form he's showing in terms of underlying statistics. So,
and if he's on penalties, it's a big if, but if he is, I think
he is, actually.
You kind of almost. Well, this is the thing. Everyone's saying he is. I don't know if there's been a quote about it. Probably been something which I've missed. Maybe you've missed too. But everyone's been saying he's on pens basically, and obviously he took the last one. But I'm just thinking if Gabby J's on there and Mahrez, even Sterling, we know those boys have taken penalties before.
Yeah.
It's not to say it's a guarantee. So maybe some of our listeners know a bit more about that than us. But anyway, that aside, just the positions that he's getting in at the moment. But he did score. 2 shots, 2 goals. It's a little bit unsustainable. But again, if you can get another 5 to 10 points out of him, you'd be happy, wouldn't you? Who are your other options this week for captaincy? Like I said, I am almost certainly going to go Sterling captaincy. I just, I can't not. I kind of brought him in for these 3 fixtures, so it's a given, right? I think if you went Sterling, you'd probably be doing the same. Yeah,
I was actually torn between Son and Sterling as my replacement for KDB, and Sterling at one stage. Sterling was at one stage getting the nod because of the fact that I was looking ahead for captaincy options. Obviously, Sheffield United ahead in game week 21 approaching. I think that's a good shout. I'm possibly looking at Salah.
He's away at West Ham.
Yes, away at West Ham, correct.
The man's going to come good. We're big proponents of him, aren't we? As we've talked about on our last pod, people are starting to think he's got to go and losing patience with him. But I think that's a good option. I have actually still, I'm looking at my, what you call a bus team. If I was to get hit by a bus tomorrow, what would my team be for game week 21? Well, actually, it would be Sterling, captain, Salah Vice. So there you go. It's already set up for me too. I don't really want to captain the United boys away at Arsenal. They've basically seen a little bit of a resurgence there, haven't they, under Arteta in the last few?
Yeah. Obviously, I watched the Southampton game as a Southampton fan, Craig. But I was actually really impressed with Arsenal. It was a bit of an uncharacteristic performance from us in terms of they just seemed to stifle us with not a lot of energy. Smith Rowe and Saka, I don't think it's going to be long before they find their way into a lot of FPL teams. I think they're very, very good assets at the price points they are. Yeah,
agreed. Saka, secure of starts. I probably would pay the additional 0.8 if I had it. Again, he looks like it's something I can't even utter out of my lips. I'm kind of thinking, should I even be saying this? But if you wanted to move away from Souček, it's a move that you could do, isn't it? If you felt like you're going to get something from him on a good fixture run, because he's definitely more direct. He just dribbled past players with ease. I was watching a bit of the Saints game. I think I watched most of the first half, and he just went round people with ease. I think after that point, I just thought we aren't getting back into this. So my best player, I guess we should move on to that. Well, Sterling so far mitigated the damage in the end, didn't it? Let's be honest. I was at one point very, very. I was just flabbergasted, really, what was going on. Gundogan, I think, was already on for a 15-pointer after however long it was pretty short, 20 odd minutes into the game, half an hour or whatever. And I was thinking, goodness gracious, doesn't look like Sterling's going to be doing anything. And he was out wide. I didn't look convinced about him at all. I've only brought him in for a 3-game short-term play. West Brom, as we saw yesterday away, which obviously got 11 points in the end. Sheffield United at home, Burnley away. And then, of course, there's that fixture transition for Spurs, isn't there, thereafter? That would take us all the way to game week 23, 21 being Sheffield United at home, Burnley away in game week 22, and then game week 23 at home you see Spurs playing West Brom. So cash to play with there for me, right? Some people might start spending the Gundogan money. Who knows? They probably invest in Spurs assets already, but it's an interesting one. Really is an interesting one. I don't know what I'm actually going to do with Sterling, to be honest, because I can drop him. I'm thinking I just moved to Gundo in game week 23, right? But it'd probably go up, but forget the prices at this point. We're way too far into the season now, and I'll probably end up, I'd always move him out. But you bring in Gundo, right, in game week 23, and I obviously have 6 million, which I can move up front and perhaps bring Kane in, particularly now Bamford's not playing well. And the fixtures aren't fantastic. You've got Liverpool away in game week 23, Spurs at home in game week 24, Arsenal away in game week 25. West Ham at home isn't an easy fixture for City either, with the way that they're playing at the moment. David Moyes, I don't think he's going to ship in goals, 1 or 2 max. And then Man United at home. So maybe the Gundo play is even relatively short. I think that the investment at the moment is in City's defence. So then the other option for me, right, and again, this is out there, but I'm actually looking at Jota. I'm looking at Diogo Jota. And again, this is very premature. Well, he's not back. Not right now, but he's due back, apparently, according to FPL, and I had a little look into it. I think he's meant to be due back for game week 22. Now, game week 22, Liverpool play Brighton at home, and I think Jota will be the injection that they need at that point. Now, 23, they've got City at home, so not ideal. But then after that, so they've got City at home in 23, but that's when Gundo obviously has Liverpool away. And then the fixtures after that, in comparison to Gundo, are Leicester away, Everton at home, Sheffield United away, Fulham at home. So it just seems like a better option for me around, he's going to be, 6, I don't know what he is at the moment, 6.2, 6.3. Yes, he's more. But again, digressing, but I'm just already thinking ahead, thinking, well, what am I going to do with this Sterling play? And also, this hopefully gives some of our listeners a bit of insight around Gundo. What is the play there? If he keeps playing well for that money, I guess you just keep him in. But the fixtures stiffen a bit. Liverpool, as I said, game week 23 away. To Spurs at home, game week 24. Arsenal away. West Ham United at home. Man United at home.
I think to keep Gundo through that tough run of fixtures is absolutely fine at his price point. Whereas Sterling, 11.5, with also the added rotation risk there. At some point he might frustrate you when you're spending the big bucks. So I
absolutely.
Totally understand.
He's gone for me for sure. Yeah. What about you for worst player, mate?
Worst player's got to be Patrick Bamford for me. No goals in 4 now. And he looked a little off the pace again last night. Only 1 attempt, which was off target. And obviously substituted off on 58, 59 minutes for a big old 1-pointer.
Yeah. Not ideal, is it, coming off the 460, particularly when you've done nout. So, I wasn't happy with that either. That's definitely my worst player too, without a shadow of a doubt. And I think his time's up. He's creeping into that Pookie territory now, isn't he?
At that point, I was thinking about pulling the sickie from the podcast. I had Rafinha going off, Souček buried on my bench, and Patrick Bamford off on 58 bloody minutes.
The curse of putting yourself more in the limelight. This was my plan in the first place anyway. It was get you more involved with the community, and hopefully we won't see so many of those top 150 ranks anymore. I'm getting a bit sick and tired of seeing 3 of those in the last 4, so hopefully we start seeing a little bit of a decline from Daz's play, because I would like to, get a little bit closer to the title in our mini leagues.
We'll see. Maybe my time's up.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see. But you're right. It turned around quickly though, didn't it? Gundogan sorted himself out. You had the City boys at the back. So you did all right. But Bamford worries me.
I noticed you mentioned getting into Pookie territory there. What's your thoughts?
Well, it's just one of those, isn't it? I feel like Leeds are a much better side than Norwich are.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the first thing here. They are more attacking, but the stats aren't really stacking up in the last, say, 4 to 5 games. They're not doing what they had done in the games prior, where it was just all-out attack. It's almost like Bielsa's sort of said, well, we guys, we can go all-out attack. We can't keep conceding all these goals. So I don't know, really. It's an interesting one. I mean, like you said, the numbers aren't there. He's had no shots on target in his last 2 games, and that was Brighton at home, Newcastle away.
Yeah,
it's not good enough. And then only 5 shots on target in his last 6. That's just it's not great. And then it was 10 shots on target in his previous 6, right, from game week 8 to 13. So I think he's going to be gone. I think a lot of people are going to move him on. Now, whether that's the right decision or not, I don't know. But the fixtures help us, don't they? Because they're not great. I mean, Leicester away next, Everton at home, Palace at home in 23, not bad. But then you've got Arsenal and Wolves away, and then Villa at home. I mean, that's 3 tough fixtures.
Yeah,
so I think his time's up.
I would actually disagree a little with the comparisons with Pukki. I've seen it a little bit on Twitter, actually, the Pukki comparisons.
Yeah.
I think the Pukki form with Norwich when they came up, it was a lot of momentum carried in from the Championship into the Premier League. Whereas I think I've seen enough from Leeds this season where I think actually Bamford, I'm happy to hold on for a little while and see what happens there. I think he's still got a lot to offer. I think Leeds will come back.
I'm glad you said that because, yeah, I mean, look, in my head, I haven't got the move there. Like, I can't afford to move there right now, right? Because I have nothing in the bank. So I've got nothing. So I've got like 0.3. So I can bring in someone 6.6 and below, I think. There's just no one. I'm not moving to Callum Wilson. And there's just nobody else. There's no one. So the only move for me really there is going to be like try and persist with him. So I'm glad to hear what you said because try and persist with him for the next few. And then maybe I'll try and upgrade him to Kane. What about your points total so far? What did you get last night?
Points total so far, I'm currently sat on 34 points, obviously with a -4, which is a rank gain, I believe, to about 9.2k.
Really?
Yeah, I believe so.
That's interesting.
I think pre-deadline I was sitting around 6.8.
Yeah. So hang on, you must have no. You were about 9.8k, you mean, and then you moved up to 9.2, right?
I don't know, mate. This might need a bit of editing now. We need to check. Lindsay's got his work cut out again. This could be another 3 a.m. Right.
Doesn't even know what he scored, this guy. Jesus.
Yeah, so my current rank's 9.2.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were 9.8 before?
No, I was 6.8. 6.8 pre-deadline.
So it's a rank decline.
It's a rank decline, yeah. And yourself?
Pretty similar story, mate. 29 points, -4, so 5 points less than you. Moved from what was 167k at the start of the week down to about 196, so about 29k loss there.
Yeah.
But I'm pleased to see the Rashford starting tonight. That's good for me. I'm hoping that's going to be a bit of a differential. I need him and obviously Ollie Watkins to do something. I know Ollie Watkins has scored. Probably not going to get anything with bonus or anything like that, but I need some points out of those two with, not owning Gundogan, Cancelo and benching Souček. They were obviously big points scorers there, and a lot of some people own 2 or 3 of those, right? So it's not ideal, but everyone pretty much owns 1. So fingers crossed, mate. Things will pick up, but at the moment it's not feeling fantastic. And what about you from an early plan for next week? What are you thinking? You got anything in the bank?
Yeah, so the moves that I made actually freed up 2.7 in the bank. So an early move that I've got my eye on, rather, is Shay Adams potentially to DCL, running into a nice fixture and now Everton, and I'm hoping he's going to hit the heights of early season. So we'll
talk about that, I think, in a bit, actually, because I've picked them as my standout game for this week, so we can go into that a bit more, but I agree completely. I think DCL, I think he's going to be back here. We should see the Everton from, the first few game weeks, I think now, particularly with this fixture run, as you said as well. And me, in terms of my plan, well, to be honest, take each day as it comes at the moment, mate. Just try and get through. It's a funny old one, isn't it, this year with the games, like every day, the drip feed of games. It's almost like it can build frustration in you. So to be honest, I've been calmer playing this game than I've ever been, and obviously I've got a lot of life distractions, like you have too, so that helps. But of course, it can get to you, this game, and obviously with the split of the games, it can just feel like a bit of a drain, can't it? Sometimes. So take each day as it comes. But to be honest, I have given it some thought, obviously, as us all FPL nerds do, and I'm thinking maybe Rashi to Son, if I'm honest.
That makes sense.
Obviously, it's exactly the same price, right? And I know you've got Son already. I think I've got to bring him in. I prefer, look, like for like, you've got Rashi there at 9.6, Son at the moment at 9.7 mil. They're exactly the same priced assets, and Son is just a lot more, in my mind, explosive than Rashi. Rashi can be explosive and he's got real big upsides, but he's just more inconsistent. And that is beyond just this season, right? If you looked at the last 3 seasons, even probably 4 seasons, you look at it and Son just has been bringing in the numbers for a long period now. It's a bit of a no-brainer, but Rashford's got good fixtures. So I'm glad to see him tonight. I mean, if he does something tonight, it gives me a bit of a headache, doesn't it? Which I would kind of want, because I wouldn't mind rolling the transfer, if I'm honest.
Yeah. I think one thing at the moment, which is quite nice in the current climate that we live in, is with fixtures potentially getting postponed, you don't know what's going on. I've completely forgotten about any sort of price rises and stuff. I'm just leaving it till as late as I can until the deadline and making the decision on the day. So you don't necessarily need to rush into anything right now.
I agree. It's a good play. I definitely, as you know my game, I'm on about getting players in quickly to start with, and of course, what comes with that is, a healthy budget or a healthy squad value, because I move fast. But I do get to this point and I start slowing down now, particularly if my rank's okay. If your rank's okay, then you don't really need to be making any kind of knee-jerk moves, right? You just got to be quite calculated, do some safe plays, and then bring in some differentials at the right time. But there's just such a plethora of players at the moment. There's so many options. There's just no need to go early. There's no need. I'm actually quite happy now. And this is, this is something that I'm not really strong with, as you know, but I'm happy. I can bleed budget now. It doesn't really bother me too much. I'm not worried about the prices, you said, particularly with the climate that we're currently living in. And if your rank's okay, I think, be relatively patient. Of course, if you're kind of 1.5 to 3 million at the moment, and by the way, you can turn that around quickly. You can move a million places very fast if you've got the right moves. We see it last night with how things can just swing. There you might want to, make a couple of hits here and there, or bring in a couple of differentials, because it can pay off. I've seen people yesterday, Daz, bringing in Cancelo and Gundogan, right? They're the two moves. I've seen it quite a lot on Twitter. Cool. They're two moves. Yeah, exactly. Phenomenal, right? What's that? A net game of 31 points. So you've got 31 points there, and people have taken out KDB, obviously 0, and they've taken out players like Zuma, or they've taken out Reece James and things like that, and you think, fantastic. Very nice. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Big round of applause to them, and I've seen a few cases of that. Massive swings, massive gains. That 31 points can move you such big way up the leaderboard. Yeah. When you're in sort of like those realms. So yeah. Keep going, my friend. Absolutely. For those out there, just keep going. Right. Should we do our ones to watch? What do you think? Should we move on to that?
Yeah, let's do it. Who are you gone for? Let's go defender.
Well, I think it's just Chelsea defence. What's the current score at the moment? As I say that, they're not getting pummeled 2 or 3-0, are they? We're obviously, again, reminded to our viewers, we're podding at the moment while the early games are on. So they drew 0-0. There you go. They're not conceded. I was expecting a bit more there today, to be honest. I actually thought they'd win that. So that's interesting. But anyway, Chelsea defence for me. There's some cheap options in there. Big fan of Reece James and Chilwell. I think that they're quite good at going forward. If you aren't one to, I guess, occupy the defence with 3 City assets, then outside of City, potentially Liverpool, even though they're not really proving very fruitful at the moment, the likes of Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think the Chelsea defence is, one of the next go-tos outside of maybe Man United. So, eagle eye there. Rudiger started tonight. Don't know what his points are. Don't know if he's on bonus or anything like that, but he's got a clean sheet. He's 4.5 million. Yeah, that for me is I've got Dallas. I can sell him for 4.6. Probably won't sell him. It's a luxury move, but there you go. It's an enabler, isn't it? That at this point of the season, if they got a double game week, you could see Rudiger go and get 2 clean sheets and netting something like 15 odd points. Well, that's happy days, because I think they have got a double game week on the horizon. So that's me for that. Midfielder, Sterling's one to watch for me. I mean, again, he's one to watch. He didn't really pass the eye test for me yesterday. I thought he was just way too wide. He was receiving a lot of the ball on either flank, to be honest. He moved both times. So I think at one point even Laporte came on and was playing over the left-hand side, obviously, when Gundogan went off, and he was getting the ball from him and he was just picking it up. You're kind of trying to do some tiki-taka football and trying to do some 1-2s and getting in the box. But I don't know, I quite like Sterling, as we saw with his goal. I like it when he kind of makes those darts into the box and gets those square passes back. But we typically see that when we see Aguero and KDB playing with him. Do you know what I mean? That's when I've seen Sterling get those mega hauls, is when he gets those tap-ins. And when I'm seeing Sterling knocking around on the wing, I'm thinking, it's going to be a long night. So it's an interesting one with Sterling.
Yeah, you always kind of envisage him getting on the end of one of them KDB crosses for a tap-in, don't you?
Really do, mate. Yeah. He sort of mastered the art of that in the last couple of seasons, hence why he's been, knocking on the door of 20-odd goals a season, because he's been getting sort of, 7 to 10 of those sort of tap-ins over the season, just getting in the right position. But, I mean, that's how he scored last night, but I didn't see enough of it. So it's a bit of a worry for me. But again, he's only in for a few games and I'm likely to need to cash out anyway. And the forward, I mean, again, I mean, one to watch this should be eye test, because the eye test yesterday, this man did not pass it. Felt like Danny Ings looked a little bit flat, a little bit off of it.
I think that was Southampton in general, to be honest with you, Craig.
Yeah, again, like I said, I can't comment too much because I didn't watch much of the second half, only the first half, but it just looked like the team were right at off it. Weren't at the races at all, were they? But Danny Ings, again, all this talk though, isn't it? I guess, they start talking about their moves. Your rumours happen, transfers. I mean, again, we've been pretty settled. Ings, he's been settled, he's been talking about how happy he is. Then you start hearing him referencing the fact, or someone referencing the fact that he could move on. And I think it just upsets the harmony. It's an interesting one because he's a great player and he will get goals. He will get goals. He can get 15 plus every season. I don't know where he's at now, but I think he's 7 or 8. He's definitely probably got another 7 to 10 goals in him this season.
Yeah.
But not if we play like that.
As you say, unfortunately, as a Southampton fan, it's something we've had to deal with a lot over the last few years. Our players being talked about with big moves away, and when the big clubs call, unfortunately, quite often they go. Money talks, and players. Not only that, players want to win trophies, don't they? So it's definitely disrupted the harmony. I think
it has. But you're right. I think you're right. You have to be realistic. We are a club that is, I guess, in most people's minds, a top 10 club, maybe. At the moment, the way that we play, but we are kind of that middle tier. Unless we really do kick on, and it needs to be this season, he is gone 100% because he can play at a high level, and I see him actually playing for a European club, no problem. He might play second fiddle if he goes to one of the bigger clubs, but at the right club, he can do some big damage. You could even see him going back to Liverpool. I mean, there's options at Spurs, obviously, that's been touted, even Arsenal, but Liverpool's an option.
Yeah, none of them would surprise you too much.
Exactly. What about you, mate? What have you gone for? What ones? Who are you eyeing up?
Yeah, so defenders, I wanted to cover the Chelsea guys as well. I've gone for Ben Chilwell. I really want to talk about Reece James, but obviously after seeing the lineup tonight, I had to make a last-minute U-turn and go for Ben Chilwell as he was dropped from Tuchel's first match. I think arguably he's probably Chelsea's most nailed-on asset, Ben Chilwell, and you think of Thomas Tuchel's style from previous spells. We all know about the comparisons with Jurgen Klopp, high pressing, pace, power, athleticism, the fullbacks playing high. I think Ben Chilwell is definitely one to watch in that regards. I really think Reece James is going to nail down that spot on the right back position as well, but that's definitely one to watch. And actually midfielder, I'm sticking with Chelsea here. Ironically, last week I sat here and said I'm not too interested in Chelsea assets, so it's amazing how much can change in a week. I think the new manager.
It's fickle, isn't
I really think the new manager is going to be a good proposition for them. I think it could do well there with the players they've got.
Yeah.
The player I've got my eye on actually is a player again that was dropped to the bench tonight, Christian Pulisic, but I'm not going to let that put me off too much of him. I really do think he's going to be a big player for Tuchel. We know about his links. I think it was him who brought him through the Borussia Dortmund ranks in 2016, and he spoke very highly of him back then, so I think it's a player he definitely likes. Yeah, as for my forwards, I've gone for my player to watch in Dominic Calvert-Lewin, DCL. As we know, he's just coming back from injury. I think nice fixture run there, Newcastle, Leeds, Man U and Fulham coming up in the next 4. You think back to sort of game week 11 when he was at his peak, I think he had about 50, 60, maybe more percentage ownership. I think he was 8 million. Now he's sitting at 7.6, 27% owned. You've got to imagine a lot of those are dead teams. So actually, it could be a good little differential for a lot of people to bring him in now.
Who have they got? They've got Newcastle at home, haven't they? What a great fixture that is for game week 21.
I think it could be a nice time to bring him in. I think getting there early.
Yeah, agreed.
And for me personally, I've got the straight swap for Shea Adams. I've got the funds there to do it straight swap, so it makes sense for me.
Nice.
And actually on that note of DCL, that should lead us nicely into the next segment, which is the standout game preview, Craig, where we each pick a standout game. I know earlier on you said you were going to talk about Everton and Newcastle, so what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I've gone for Everton-Newcastle this week of all the fixtures, and the reason I've done that is because all eyes, I feel like, are back on Everton now. And the reason I say that is because they've got 3 key players back playing together again. And obviously we haven't seen that for almost the last 10 game weeks. We've seen injuries to J-Rod. We've seen injuries to Digne. And of course, DCL has had a little setback. So Everton-Newcastle for me comes at a nice time because Newcastle obviously aren't playing fantastically well. Not really that offensive at the moment. And there's obviously a lot of question marks around that. And of course, how Bruce is setting them up, etc. So there's obviously a club in a little bit of trouble. And I feel like having Digne and James and DCL back in the side is big because when I looked at some of the numbers, over game weeks 1 to 9 at the start of the season, their conversion rate on shots was 18.8%. So they were actually converting almost 1 in 5 shots at that point, which says to me that they were getting better opportunities, right, to finish. You know, if the setup's better, the conversion rate is going to be better. And then if we look at it, they were actually second in the table at the time in terms of the conversion rate. That percentage was second best out of all clubs in the Premier League. So it was very high, perhaps a little bit unsustainable, but I think that those numbers up because of the chance creation that they're getting, because Hamas and Dino are very good, as we've seen, at putting balls into the box and threading balls through. Their deliveries are absolutely fantastic, and I think that correlates, because then when we look at game weeks 10 to 19, only 11.4% conversion rate. With them back in the side, DCL is going to get more, and so, of course, there's going to be more FPL points going through the club as well. Same with attempts inside the box at the start of the season, 66th and 9th for the first sort of 9 game weeks, and then from game weeks 10 to 19, only 52, all the way down to 18th of all the clubs in the Premier League. So, again, a big switch there. And the crosses as well was interesting, which we'd expect. First 9 game weeks of the season, 66.7% came from the left-hand side. Thinking Digne again, and in 10-19, so game week 10 to game week 19, only 39.9%, so a huge reduction, 41% reduction in creativity from the left-hand side. And Digne assisted 5 goals in the first 9 games at the start of the season, which is ridiculous, right? For a defender, that's crazy. I mean, might not be sustainable, of course, over a season, but that type, you'd expect, you know, he's going to get that kind of crazy Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold type assists this season if he, you know, he kind of even maintains that level a little bit. Doesn't have to keep that up, but you think he can get to double figures. So I think they're definitely ones to watch. And those assists from Digne in those first 9 games, 3 of those 5 were to DCL. So yeah, if I had the money, mate, I'd probably be thinking about DCL myself, to be honest. So I think that's a good move for you and others.
Richarlison and obviously DCL in particular, they definitely thrive on them crosses from Digne. They've definitely something they've missed as a side. I'm looking forward to seeing them back in the side.
And Richarlison's another one. I'm not even mentioning him once, but having Richarlison in the side is so good for Calvert-Lewin. It's just ridiculous. As when Richarlison's not there, Calvert-Lewin doesn't get as many opportunities as that poacher role. I mean, Richarlison just creates so much space for him, the way he moves, the way that he's direct and he drags players out of position. It gives DCL those opportunities to basically put those balls in like Inzaghi, as Carlo Ancelotti said at the beginning of the season. My predicted result here, mate, is probably 2 or 3-0. I just don't see Newcastle getting anything. They might get a goal, but again, like with Leeds, I just didn't expect them to score. Obviously, players to watch for me from Everton are Digne, Hamas, DCL and Richarlison. And then from Newcastle, no one really. I mean, look, continue to watch Wilson. They've got an okay run. I wouldn't be going there. I'll be interested to see, and again, I don't know if it comes a little bit too soon because I know he's on his way back. I think he's back training. But I don't know if St. Maximin will play. But I'd be interested to see how they, again, perform once he's back at Newcastle, because I think they desperately need some sort of creativity and drive in that side at the moment. They're struggling.
They are struggling. It'll be an interesting watch from that point of view, but realistically, as you say, there's no interest in Newcastle assets right now, is there?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And what have you gone for standout game?
So I've gone for Southampton versus Villa. I think particularly from a Southampton fan point of view, I'm expecting to see a reaction. It was a very uncharacteristic performance, I thought. The energy just wasn't there. Arsenal just seemed to stifle us, and to be honest, all credit to them, I thought they were really good. But expecting to see a reaction. And from an FPL point of view, for me, eyes are on Shea Adams. It could be his last run out on my side. No returns now in the last 5. And as I said, DCL is firmly on the radar, so that's definitely one to keep an eye on. From Villa's point of view, they're a team I'm really interested in, actually. I think they've got a nice fixture run after Saints. West Ham at home, Arsenal home, Brighton away, Leicester home and Leeds away, which is a nice little run. By no stretch of the imagined claim to be a fixture expert, but I'm pretty sure they should get a double game week in 26, right? So
yeah, I believe so.
So definitely.
That's what I'm told.
Definitely a team to keep an eye on. Martinez, Grealish and Watkins are probably the standouts, but the one I'm particularly interested in is Matty Cash. I think he's been looking really good lately. The stats actually show 7 chances created in the last 5. Now, bearing in mind we're talking mid-game week here, so I'm not too sure what he's done in tonight's match, but in the 5 matches previously, 7 chances created, and the rest of the Villa defence have been really struggling to create chances. I think the only chance of note was the Matt Targett delivery, which led to the Ollie Watkins goal against Newcastle. But a lot of the attacking play from the wide areas have definitely come from Matty Cash, so it's definitely one to keep an eye on, I think. And at 5 million, I think he could be worth the extra investment from the likes of Target and Concert at 4.7, and particularly favourable over Mings at 5.4. I think it's just a little bit overpriced now. Yeah, predicted result, I've gone for 1-1. I think it could be a tight match. I'm hoping Saints might cause them a few problems and grab a goal. Go for a 1-1. Okay, moving on. Should we get on to some community questions?
Yeah, sounds great, mate. Let's have a look at what we've got here. Okay, so Fady Emil says, Kane and Son combination is a must from game week 21. Brighton, Chelsea at home, West Brom at home, then Man City away. What do you think about that?
Not necessarily a must for me. I think if you've got some money freed up from maybe KDB to Gundogan and you want to go to Kane as well as Son, that's fine, but no, not a must.
No, I agree with that.
Zach's come in with, now Lampard has been sacked, when will you start considering Chelsea players? Something we've kind of covered already.
Yeah, I guess we've already covered that in length already, haven't we, in the early part of this pod? We've covered quite a few of their assets, in fact, spoke in length about them. I guess the point that we made was that we have to wait and see here. We need to see what Thomas Tuchel is going to be doing in terms of his tactics, who he's going to be playing, who his favourites are. So I think it's a few weeks out, so I don't think I'll be diving in. Okay. I
agree.
We've got a few people asking the same thing here, so I'll ask each of their questions, but it's the similar type of questions. We've got Conman. We've got a great Twitter name here. Are you blind for fuck's Aki? So I think that's maybe are you blind for fuck's ache? And FPL Green Arrow Chaser. They ask, is Bamford's time up? And they also say, is DCL a must replacement for Bamford next week onwards? And then in addition to that, the other one says, can DCL be considered a must-have? So it's basically, is Bamford done? Are we now thinking that DCL is a must-have again?
Okay, so for me personally, no, Bamford isn't done. I think if you've got other fires to put out, you can stick with Bamford for a little bit. If you sat there with maybe Kane and Watkins, for example, and you want to get Antonio in, he's looking great. I think Bamford to Antonio is absolutely fine, but no, I don't think Bamford's time's up, and I don't think DCL is necessarily a must replacement, although as we've covered, he's somebody to keep an eye on. Okay, so Capital FPL, Andy and Patrick Corlett have all asked similar questions relating to when we recommend wildcarding. When's the best week, to use the second wildcard? Is it game week 22 to 24 to prep for the double game week 26 and use the bench boost chip? And they're saying they only have the bench boost and wildcard remaining.
I think that one's very circumstantial, so perhaps this isn't exactly the answer that they want to have, but personally I'm going to try and wait it out just before the double game week 26, particularly after what we saw with those that wildcard in 16, and I know that you were one of those that kept hold of your wildcard all the way to the last minute, wildcarded in the hope that you'd have almost a fully fledged squad of double game week players, and then of course Villa's game was postponed versus Spurs, and then Leeds versus Southampton also lost their double game week. So I think I don't want to run into that trap as well. So I probably will just try and bide my time and maybe use my wild card just before a double game week. Mac has said, what are the optimal forwards at the moment? Does Kane fit in if you already have Son?
Yeah, I think he can do. I think similar to the last question. I think if you've got the funds there, maybe if you've just downgraded KDB and you've got the funds, I think it's fine to go to Kane as well as Son. As we've seen earlier in the season, they're both good value. I'd say the optimal front line, I'd probably say Kane, Antonio, and then possibly either Watkins or DCL, but either of them's fine.
Probably would be my preferential front line at the moment, Kane, Antonio, Watkins, and as you said, DCL. And he also actually said, is Souček a fourth or a fifth mid? Are we now looking at a 3-4-3, let's say, or do we sort of class Souček as a must play? Liverpool up next.
To be honest, I think Souček can be whatever you want him to be. For me, for example, right now, I've got Salah, Fernandes, Son, Gundo and Souček, so effectively he's my fifth midfielder. But if you want to go to maybe an Emil Smith-Rowe or Saka, he can easily act as your third or fourth midfielder. I'd have no trouble playing him against any team at the moment. Moving on, FPL JMO has asked, is Robertson to Stones or Cancelo worth it? Or do you feel Liverpool worth sticking with?
It depends again. I mean, look, obviously, if you've got 2 already, no. I mean, obviously, that would be, you've got a Diaz and a Stones and you want Cancelo, or you've got Cancelo and Diaz and you want Stones. I would probably say no, but it's only because I want to keep open an attacking spot for City just in case. Would I move from Robertson to one of those? Probably not. But if you only own one Man City defender at the moment, then I would be considering it, to be honest. I own 2 and Robertson, so maybe that's where my bias comes in. But if you don't, maybe it is the time. They look so solid at the back.
And moving on, it's time for the last part of the pod. And last but not least, we move on to our 4-a-side competition. For the new listeners, each week Craig and I will be selecting our fantasy 4-a-side team with a limited budget of just 25.0. We'll be going head to head not only with each other but also against the FPL community, as we welcome a different guest to take us on each week. So for more information, you can find us on our Twitter page at First45Pod, where you can also track the progress and the current standings.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. And as I said, the loser will be making a donation to Mind Charity, £100. And of course, if the community win come the end of the season and beat both Darren and I will donate a further £50. So let's hope the community win, hey? And obviously we're mid-game week at the moment against the FPL General as well, so not all of our players have played, but I'm pleased to say that I own both Cancelo in defence and Grealish, so some points there for me.
Yeah. All right, enough about that. I don't want to hear about Cancelo and Grealish.
Yeah, so this week, as we won't be recording again until next Wednesday, we have ourselves our own double game week, so our picks will actually cover game week 21 and 22, and I'm excited to welcome to the pod this week's community representative, Pranil, who is better known as Late Riser 12. So let's see what we're up against this week, Daz.
Hi everyone, this is Pranil here, also known as Late Riser 12, and it's an absolute pleasure to be on the second episode of the First 45 pod. Big congratulations to both of you all, Craig and Darren, for starting this really, really nice podcast. I tuned into the first episode and thought it was great. I really enjoyed the banter and was happy to know that you guys are friends from earlier. A little known fact about me on that note is that I've never met my co-host of the FPL Wire, whether that's Zofar or Bakar, in real life. So we were just hanging out on the forums of Fantasy Football Scout back in the day. That's how we know each other. After that, Bakar started a WhatsApp group with a few of us who were a little more enthusiastic than the usual about FPL, and that's how we know each other. We've known each other for quite a while. I think that WhatsApp group has existed for about 7 or 8 years, and that's how we know each other, but never met each other in real life. Also, big congratulations to you guys, and well done on donating to Mind Charity. That's a great gesture, and we need more people like that in the community. Just so you know, Darren, I'm a big fan of your FPL pedigree. I think you're one of the best out there. Unfortunately, I can't say the same about Craig. And he deserved that because he badmouthed DCL early season and said that I wouldn't ever own him and I was just talking him up for no reason. We all know what happened after that. All right, so quickly getting to my picks. In defense, my keeper, I have Araloa from Fulham. He's 4th for saves made amongst all keepers. They've got West Brom and Leicester next. So a good mix of clean sheet chances as well as a chance to accumulate some saves. And I fancy that. And I didn't have too much budget for my keeper, so I went with Araloa. In defense, I have Cancelo, who is, in my opinion, the best defender in the game right now. A little bit of a rotation risk, but I'm taking my chances with Sheffield United at home and Burnley away. Hoping that he mimics his performance from last night. In midfield, I have Harvey Barnes, who cost 6.8 million. This is a fixture play, and I really like Harvey Barnes as a player as well. I think he's been playing really well, has a really good goal threat as well. He's playing Leeds at home and Fulham away, two obliging defenses. I'm actually looking to bring him in my real-life FPL team as well. And up front, I mean, I'm going against Craig, so there's no better player to have up front. And obviously, Calvert-Lewin has to be in there, and he's going to be the one making sure that he breathes Craig's team. He faces Newcastle at home and Leeds away. I don't think any player can get a better pair of fixtures, and he's very likely coming in my FPL team this week as well. Just so you guys know, I'm recording this before the games on Wednesday night, so I don't know how Chelsea, Man City, Chelsea, Leicester, etc. played, and happy to be a part of this. I'm pretty sure I'm going to beat Craig. I'm not so sure about Darren. Good luck, guys, and looking forward to listening to the pod. Take care. See you.
Well, Pranil. So I know what to think of that. Well, I think one thing that I have learnt here is that Pranil and Darren are definitely lovers. In fact, actually, if you had a love baby, you probably would actually produce the FPL winner, because you've both got some fantastic ranks. So well done. Stitched me right up there. So cheers, Pranil. Thanks for that. Right, Daz, who have you got?
Yeah, I think you might want to think a bit more carefully about who you bring on as your guest in the future weeks.
Yes, he's tucked me in, hasn't he? Right, Daz, moving on, please.
I've gone for goalkeeper Johnson at 4.5 from West Brom. Now, this could be a little bit of a fixtures over form pick, and definitely something that I'm maybe more hopeful rather than using my head, because he's in my FPL team still. So, Fulham and Sheffield United. I'm hoping Big Sam can finally tighten up that defence, which is kind of what he's known for. So, yeah, I'm hopeful there. Defender, John Stones, 5.1. Obviously, as we know, and we spoke about clean sheet potential there of Man City, he's great. Sheffield United and Burnley. Midfielder, James Maddison, 7.2. I picked him despite the Vardy absence, which I think could be a little bit of an issue for them, actually, but I've gone with Maddison nonetheless. And forward, back to that man, DCL at 7.6. Newcastle and Leeds, great fixtures. Pleased to see Pranel's picked him too. So
yeah, it does, absolutely. That's good picks. And for me, I've gone for Edison in goal, someone I would probably never buy in FPL, but I've used this as my Man City clean sheet coverage, to be honest, to allow for my defender. And my defender is Digne. Obviously spoken about him a little bit in tonight's pod. 6.0 mil. Newcastle at home, Leeds away. Again, Leeds not looking fantastic at the moment, so he might get one clean sheet in those two and hopefully some attacking returns. But as I said, he's assisted 5 goals in the first 9 games, so I'm hoping he can strike that form again. Midfielder, gone for Gundogan. No, neither of you or Pranil have gone for Gundogan, which surprises me a little bit, given that we've only got that 25 mil budget. But of course, having not owned him this week, perhaps it's a little bit of a sore spot for me, particularly as I was one of the people saying I'm not too sure how he's going to play in the absence of KDB, whether or not he would take on a slightly different role, which he didn't. He was all around the box. He was everywhere. He was beautiful. Sheffield United at home, Burnley away, 8 shots on target in the last 6. Crazy. And I was thinking about Foden, but he's only had 4 shots on target. So definitely Gundogan there. And forward, Antonio to finish me off, 6.4. Aston Villa away, Fulham away, to 2 away fixtures. But the way he's playing at the moment, I'm expecting things. 4 shots on target and 4 attempted assists in the 3 games that he's been back, which is brilliant. And of course, he hit the post as well twice yesterday. So fingers crossed I can have another good game week with my 4-a-side picks. And they come in at 24 mil.
Actually, I quite like your picks there. I think you've done well. I think you spent more time on that than you have.
Probably. Otherwise, I might have actually picked Gundogan, mightn't I? And be sitting here a little bit more rosy with 6 mil in the bank and a few more points than Sterling. Absolutely. I think I have spent more time on this. You're right, mate. I need to realign my priorities. Well, there we have it. Another pod, episode 2, bagged. I've enjoyed that once again, Dazza.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, Craigo.
Absolutely, mate. And we will keep everybody updated with regards to the 4-a-side competition on our Twitter handle. So please come and follow us at First45Pod. Hit the subscribe button on the channels as well, where our podcast will be uploaded. We're going to upload on a lot more this week, so keep an eye out for that. Cheers, everyone. Have a great game week. Keep it simple. Stay sane. Be happy. Ciao.
See you guys.